Are you pissed, John Wick? Yeah.
Those were up, and they did.
More smarts, and my... He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for the third installment of a franchise I am currently reviewing, and it's the final one I'm going to be reviewing before the next one that comes out in a week. And it was released in 2019, and that film was going to be for none other than 2019's John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, released around May 17th, 2019, in theaters. So what's this one about? Well, in this third installment of the adrenaline-fueled action franchise, skilled assassin John Wick returns with a $14 million price tag on his head and an army of bounty hunting killers on his trail, like from the end of Chapter 2, continuing where Chapter 2 left off. Then after killing a member of the shadowy international assassins Gold at the High Table, John Wick is excommunicando, but the world's most ruthless hitmen and women await his every turn. So how was this film made? Well, around October 2016, Chad Stahelski, who had made his directorial debut with John Wick and served as Reese's Matrix stunt double, stated that a third film in the John Wick series was in the works. And in June 2017, it was reported that Derek Kolstad, who wrote the two prior films, would return to write the screenplay. In January 2018, it was reported that Stahelski would return to direct. And according to Reeves, the film's title was taken from the famous 4th century Roman military quote, "Si vis pacem, parabellum," which means if you want peace, prepare for war. So, in an interview with the New York Times, McShane said that the film would be big, good, and that nothing in the same, while also hinting that part of the action could be the High Table's payback not only on Wick but also on his close friend Winston. And then in January 2018, it was reported that Hiroyuki Sanada was in talks to join the cast. Later, it was revealed that Ian McShane, Lawrence Fishburne, and Lance Reddick would reprise their roles from previous John Wick films. Then in May 2018, Halle Berry, Angela Houston, Ezra K. Dillon, Mark DeSantis, Jason Marcus, so I can't really read their names. Like, they're hard to announce, but more joined the cast. I'll say it like that. Then in November 2018, Tagamal confirmed his involvement in the film. Then principal photography began on May 5th, 2018 in New York City, and then additional filming locations in Casablanca. And the principal photography lasted until November 2018, and cinematographer Dan Lassen asked about how challenging it was to use as many extended fight scenes as possible while filming the high-action screenplay. He even stated that, of course, it was a challenge because all the fights, Chad was doing most of the fights himself, and played that as wide as they could, because the way they see that, it was him, and they did that a lot. They tried to play it as wide as they could and do long shots, but of course, because Chad has a background from the stunt world, he knows exactly to block that kind of stuff. He's not the best stunt person in the world, but he's learning. Then in an interview with Jimmy Fallon, Halle Berry said that she even broke 3 ribs in rehearsal. And then the action scene with the hitman named Ernest, played by NBA basketball player Boban Marjanovic, was inspired by the Bruce Lee film Game of Death, where Lee fights NBA basketball player Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Unlike most of the other stunt scenes, Ernest has a few lines bantering with John Wick, but he still loses. Obviously. Well, so after the film was shot and marketed, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum premiered first in New York City on May 9th, 2019, and would be theatrically released in the United States on May 17th, 2019 by Lionsgate. Like the other two movies, it also received generally positive reviews from critics, with praise for the action sequences, visual styles, and Reeves' performance. And the film grossed $300 to $27 million worldwide at the box office, even more than its predecessors. More. It took just 10 days to become the highest grossing film of the franchise. 10 days. compared to all the other films that only earned like $88 million worldwide and $171 million worldwide. And we all know a sequel, John Wick Chapter 4, my number one most hyped movie this year, is going to be released in March 2023. And a spin-off film, Ballerina, is set to be released in the future. Now, as for my reaction, well, I have to say, this is one of the few rare times where the third chapters don't suck, along with other third entries like Return of the King, Revenge of the Sith, Dark Knight Rises, Die Hard with a Vengeance, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, Toy Story 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, Infinity War, Spider-Man No Way Home, and War for the Planet of the Apes. And also, this movie. I think when it comes to the franchise, this is most definitely my third favorite. This was up there with Endgame as my two most hyped movies of 2019, and this movie totally lived up to this hype. This universe created without any source material had to develop and expand itself in every new film. The same fiction cannot be made for each film. We don't know if Derek Kolstad had thought that John Wick would be this big when he first created it. When it came into the third film, it seems clear how the story deepened and became beautiful. And this chapter basically starts where the last film ended. Wick is running out of time, and in less than an hour he will be excommunicated from the global community of assassins that can't use any of their hideouts or facilities anymore. Every assassin in New York will be hunting him down, since the price of his head is a staggering $14 million. If you really think assassins have the patience to wait until the High Table, the global organization of assassins, tells you the hunt has begun, you're in for a surprise. Like, there's killers everywhere. Wick bumps into one very tall man early on in the library. There's a close-up combat with books. It doesn't take long before the next battle starts in an antique store where cabinets get shattered to start a lethal knife-throwing sequence with deadly consequences. And our man knows he can't keep battling an entire city of assassins forever. He goes looking for a way out, and this is where we get to know a bit more about John himself. Angelica Huston plays a cold-blooded woman who knows John from a previous life. After handing her a talisman he once earned for doing something terrible, he's here to ask her a favor, sneak him out of the U.S. They own that one thing. Wick is off to Morocco to get rid of his death sentence. And the film offers you all kinds of action, too. The film has a unique style of action, and any action you could think of is included in the third film, like moreover, exponentially. The enemies are increasingly jumping, like as we see in the trailer. There's even a horse escape scene. There's so much more to it, and at this point, like, some things are going to be a small illusion to the viewer, and only action-oriented films can be considered empty, and we can say that John Wick 3 offers uninterrupted action for 2 hours and 10 minutes, but in doing so, it doesn't forget the story. You will learn and very interesting details of John Wick, and you will get new ideas about how the functioning of the universe. Stahelski has very impressive shots too. Like, the main verses preferred to the main fights were especially appreciated. The fact that the director's vision is so blended with Keanu Reeves and other actors is very effective on the traceability of the film. Stahelski deserves great praise, like he usually does with this franchise. And as with the previous two installments, John Wick 3 is where Keanu Reeves is at home. Like, this role was just made for him. And watching him stand toe-to-toe with powerhouses like Halle Berry, Ian McShane, Lawrence Fishburne, and Angelica Huston not only shows how good he is of an action star, but as an actor in general. He hasn't been given a role this good since The Matrix, but those movies like never showed how good he was at just at acting, and he sells in this movie a lot. And the supporting cast too is all amazing. They loved how they left their characters hanging, giving us hopes of seeing them in future installments. I guess I love that more in depth the movie spent on world building, and the way it brings in different cultures into this assassin guild is done very well. John Wick 3 Parabellum feels like a celebration of the action genre, showing of no franchise fatigue and referencing a number of great action films in the process. Even a nod to the original action man Buster Keaton graces the film in its opening moments. The first two films delivered hard-hitting action, but Parabellum takes it to a whole new level for the franchise, like with books, horses, and dogs playing a major part in doing so. It's the meticulousness of the choreography and the energy of the cinematography from Dan Lawson that brings the masterful action sequences to life. The pulsating motorbike chase and sword fight being the very crowning glory of Parabellum. It's a welcoming reminder of the genius of the stunt work that goes into making films like these and how it's about time they should be seeing much more recognition for their work come award season. Parabellum even maintains a rather cutthroat pace throughout, and right from the frantic opening half hour through the brutality of the final act, there's a lot more humor to show in this installment, which works due to the ludicrous some of the action has now become, and the world of the assassins to expand upon a bit more, which comes as no surprise with a television show about the Continental Hotel Network on the horizon. Nothing incapacitates John Wick as much as Keanu Reeves does. A man who has been his fair share of of classics from the action genre. As a Tyler character, Reeves may not deliver the greatest action performances, but he does deliver one hell of a physical performance in Parabellum, months of tracing coming to fruition with a more believable experience to the audience. And in this go-around, John fights like literally not just some assassins, but like literally everyone. Even by freaking ninjas played by the Mad Dog from The Raid and the assassin from The Raid 2. How badass is that? Having two ninjas played by actors from both the Raid movies. Like, that's just all the badass right there. And Parabellum just doesn't lighten up on the action. It begins the action almost immediately when it starts and it doesn't let up. Even when it does slow down, it doesn't feel like it because it does take a deep dive into John's backstory. But the filmmakers are masters, and if you can show it, don't say it. Even exposition and world building flows right along with the full throttle pacing of the rest of the movie. Part 3 also just ups the ante with the set pieces. From the small, intimate ones in a library to the grand extended, almost battletic extended shootouts in the second and third act. John Wick never fails to amaze the viewer, but with all this action, when we stop to breathe, especially when we have exposition starring Barry and Houston, the film really does stop in a jarring way. And camera work is wonderful, particularly when we are on the road, with the camera focusing on the long road, subliminally referencing Wick's never-ending journey. Well, when it will all be over, how will this man ever rest? Will Wick ever get to the end of his journey, his goal to carry on living so he can remember? It's also great to see DeCasso starring in a major release again. His zero and a formidable adversary, but his strange, almost camp-like ways make him a very likable presence, causing the viewer to let their guard down and endear to him, making him one of the most dangerous villains. It's a wonderfully crafted film, almost dreamlike to its nature. The desert scene is awe-inspiring and a genuine jaw-dropping moment that lets you almost feel the delusional state that Wick must be feeling as he slowly dehydrates. And it's also very funny in places, with Ian McShane providing the biggest laugh by simply putting a phone down, or even when one of the baddies in one of Hallie's scenes shoots one of her dogs, only to turn out to be wearing bulletproof armor and killing her return, and then she's like, "He shot my dog," and Don just stares in belief going, "I know." Or even during the final fight too, where you have one of John's foes showing that he actually is a big fan of him, and also says he's more of a cat person before he prepares to fight him. So I kind of like how even though this guy's out to kill John, even he acknowledges him. It's perfect right there. And I really like how the comedy here felt perfectly balanced and it wasn't forced like a lot of movies today. Like, it was only there at the best times, and it made this, and actually the comedy kind of made the series a little more enjoyable here. It actually made the franchise even more enjoyable this time. Like, the movie knows exactly what it wants. It spends nearly no time arguing, blabbering, or attempting drama. We join John Wick exactly where we left him in the previous film, on the streets of New York City with his unnamed dog just called Dog, clutching at his life as the clock is ticking down to when his life is officially for sale for about $14 million and increasing. Not soon enough, Wick meets his first assassin attempting to collect. He defeats him, of course, but not without taking some damage himself. Yet again, Stahelski continues on abusing his protagonist, but the fact that he is not untouchable only makes him more fascinating and powerful. And don't worry, guys, we all know this. John Wick's a survivor in this installment. And the fact that he is more embedded in this criminal underworld only makes his tactic attitude more precise. Every time he opens his mouth, the plot moves forward. But let's not forget why he's here. Consequences. His only wish is to live to remember his wife. He never ignited the fire in the first place. But like often, Tony Montana even says, like, he's never messed with anybody over in his life and didn't have it coming to them. But John Wick is the polar opposite of Montana. He is elegant, respectful of his enemies, even when he constantly has to look over his shoulder. That's perfect about the character right there. However, if there are any bad qualities, well, I'll say this. This movie doesn't really have as much dialogue as the first two movies, and sometimes it just kind of just feels like a compilation of action scenes, which isn't a bad thing at all, but I do wish we got a bit more dialogue to go with this movie. Second, we don't even find out why Leguizamo's character is absent from this. We never find out why he's just not there anymore. Like, I kind of wish they kind of explained why we didn't even see him again after the second movie's cliffhanger. And I also didn't like how, while Hallie's character was awesome, she only has like a few minor scenes and then also just disappears from the film after that. And towards the end of the film is kind of where the movie does start to slightly disappoint. Like, I still believe that the film should have just taken the alternate direction as to what actually happened towards the end, which kind of really impacts my overall rating of the film. And I'm not going to spoil for those who still haven't seen it yet, or still have yet to watch it, but John Wick kind of just had a purpose as to why he wanted to escape death. And even when I saw this in the theater opening night, I asked myself why he went through all the trouble, and Wick's reason for this was very much felt. And the conclusion feels as if what Wick went through in the end was just pointless after the final decision he chose, even after the sacrifice he made and what became of him. But thankfully, it's a good thing we're getting a fourth film that hopefully has some payoff at least. And I also did feel like the Bowery King was a bit wasted in this one. But he thankfully comes back in the end when he and Wick plan to team up and take the high table down together, which is a perfect cliffhanger setup for the fourth movie. That is going to be coming out in a week. And now hopefully we can finally have our proper Morpheus and Neo reunion in it as well. Well, I do hope anyways. So, despite the bad qualities, Parabellum is easily the second best of the series and the best of the Wick sequels. In the end, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum is yet another great chapter I recommend watching and buying for your collection for sure. And if you are obviously a dire fan of this franchise and want to get hyped up for 4. Anyways, that's it for my review of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. If we're going to rate John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you love this franchise and want to keep seeing Wick dealing with his former company against him, then I would recommend watching and buying this movie for sure for your collection. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum a 9 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, and that completes the John Wick review series until John Wick Chapter 4 comes out next week. After the 4 years, the wait is finally over. And I've heard some great early reactions to this movie, so I can have some hope for this movie for a change. I was a little worried because the original director wasn't coming back, but seems like I've got nothing to worry about now. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this video or review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.